Alright guys, welcome to my first ever YouTube video starring myself. But it's just going to become our read aloud, and I'm in the classroom today and hoping that you guys are calm and comfortable. And do you guys remember this book? It's been a while, but we are on chapter 27. We are almost to the end, and then we'll start a new book when we finish this one. But if you can remember, the last thing that happened was the centipede fell off of the peach. And do you remember who saved the centipede? That's right, it was James. And so now we start chapter 27. Here we go. James Henry Trotter and his companions crouched close together on top of the peach as the night began closing in around them. Clouds like mountains towered high above their heads on all sides, mysterious, menacing, overwhelming. Gradually, it grew darker and darker. And then a pale three-quarter moon came up over the tops of the clouds and cast an eerie light over the whole scene. The giant peach swayed gently from side to side as it floated along, and the hundreds of silky white strings going upwards from its stem were beautiful in the moonlight. So also was the great flock of seagulls overhead. There was not a sound anywhere. Traveling upon the peach was not in the least like traveling in an airplane. The airplane comes clattering and roaring through the sky, and whatever might be lurking secretly up there in the great cloud mountains goes running for cover during its approach. That is why people who travel in airplanes never see anything. But the peach, yes, the peach was soft, stealthy traveler, making no noise at all when it floated along, and several times during that long, silent night ride high up over the middle of the ocean in the moonlight, James and his friends saw things that no one had ever seen before. Once, as they drifted silently past a massive, what does massive mean? I bet you know. Huge, big, a massive white cloud. They saw on top of it a group of strange, tall, wispy-looking things that were about twice the height of ordinary men. They were not easy to see at first because they were almost as white as the cloud itself. But as the peach sailed closer, it became obvious that these things were actually living creatures. Tall, wispy, wraith-like, shadowy white creatures who looked as though they were made out of a mixture of cotton wool and candy floss. Candy floss is the same thing as cotton candy. And thin white hairs. Ooh, the ladybug said. I don't like this at all. Shh, James whispered back. Don't let them hear you. They must be cloud men. Cloud men, they murmured, huddling closer together for comfort. Oh dear, I'm glad I'm blind and I can't see them, said the earthworm. Or I probably would scream. I hope they don't turn around and see us, Miss Spider stammered. Do you think they would eat us, the earthworm asked. They would eat you, the centipede answered, grinning. They would cut you up like a salami and eat you in little thin slices. The poor earthworm began to quiver all over with fright. But what are they doing? Old Green Grasshopper whispered. I don't know, James answered softly. Let's watch and see. The cloud men were all standing in a group, and they were doing something peculiar. You guys know what that means. With their hands, first they would reach out, all of them at once, and grab handfuls of cloud. They would roll these handfuls of cloud in their fingers until they turned into what looked like white marbles. Then they would toss the marbles to one side and quickly grab more bits of cloud and start over again. Do you have a prediction of what's happening here? It was all very silent and mysterious. The piles of marbles beside them kept growing larger and larger. Soon there was a truckload of them there at last. They must be absolutely mad, the centipede said. There's nothing to be afraid of here. Be quiet, you pest, the earthworm whispered. I should have said, be quiet, you pest. We shall all be eaten if they see us. But the cloudmen were much too busy with what they were doing to have noticed the great peach floating silently behind them. Then the watchers of the peach saw one of the cloudmen raising his long, wispy arms above his head, and they heard him shouting, "All right, boys, that's enough. Get the shovels." And all the cloudmen immediately let out a strange, high-pitched whoop of joy and started jumping up and down and waving their arms in the air. They picked up the enormous shovels and rushed over to the piles of marbles and began to shovel them as fast as they could over the side of the cloud into space. Down they go, they chanted as they worked. Down they go, hail and snow. Freezes and sneezes and noses will blow. It's hailstones, whispered James excitedly. They've been making hailstones, and now they are showering them down onto the people in the world below. Do you guys know what hail is? You probably do, but if you don't, you should look it up. It's kind of like snow, but really hard. Hailstones, the centipede said. That's ridiculous. This is summertime. You don't have hailstones in summertime. They are practicing for winter, James told him. I don't believe it, shouted the centipede, raising his voice. Shh, the others whispered. And James said softly, for heaven's sake, centipede, don't make such a noise. The centipede roared with laughter. Those people couldn't hear anything, he cried. They're deaf as doorknobs. You watch. And before anyone could stop him, he cupped his front teeth to his mouth and was yelling at the cloudmen as loud as he could. Hey, you, silly men, blunderhead, silly, silly, what on earth do you think you're doing over here? The effect was immediate. The cloudmen jumped around as if they had been stung by wasps. And when they saw the great golden peach floating past them, not 50 yards away in the sky, they gave a yelp of surprise and dropped their shovels to the ground. And there they stood with the moonlight streaming down all over them, absolutely motionless. That means they were frozen. Like a group of tall, white, hairy statues staring and staring at the gigantic fruit as it went sailing by. The passengers on the peach, all except the centipede, sat frozen with terror, looking back at the cloudmen and wondering what was going to happen next. Now you've done it, you pest, whispered the earth. Keep not whispering. Now you've done it, you pest, the earthworm said to the centipede. I'm not frightened of them, shouted the centipede, and to show everybody once again that he wasn't, he stood up to his full height and started dancing around about and making insults and signs at the cloudmen with all 42 of his legs. This evidently infuriated, that's a really good word for making them really mad, infuriated the cloudmen beyond belief. All at once, they spun around and grabbed great handfuls of hailstones and rushed to the edge of the cloud and started throwing them at the peach, shrieking with fury the whole time. Look out, cried James. Quick, lie down, lie flat on the deck. It was lucky that they did, because a large hailstone can hurt you as much as a rock or a lump of lead if it's thrown hard enough. And my goodness, those cloudmen could throw. The hailstones came whizzing through the air like bullets, whoo, 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 from a machine gun. Ooh, I don't like to talk about guns. And James could hear them smashing against the side of the peach and burying themselves in the peach flesh with horrible squelching noises. Plop, 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 and then ping, 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 and they bounced off the poor ladybug's shell because she couldn't lie as flat as the others. And then, crack! As one of them hit the centipede's right on the nose, crack, and another one hit him somewhere else. Ow! "Oh," he cried. "Ow, stop, 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 stop." But the Cloudmen had no intention of stopping. James could see them rushing about on the cloud like a lot of huge hairy ghosts, picking up hailstones from the pile, dashing to the edge of the cloud, hurling them at the Peach, dashing back again to get more, and then when the pile of stones was all gone, they simply grabbed handfuls of cloud and made as many more as they wanted, and much bigger ones now. Some of them were as large as cannonballs. "Quickly," cried James, "down the tunnel or we'll all get wiped out." There was a rush for the tunnel entrance, and a half-minute later, everybody was safely downstairs inside the Stone of the Peach, trembling with fright and listening to the noise of the hailstones as they came crashing against the side of the Peach. "I'm a wreck," groaned the Centipede. "I'm wounded all over." "It serves you right," said the Earthworm. "Would someone kindly look and see if my shell is cracked?" the Ladybug said. "Give us some light," shouted the old green grasshopper. "I can't," wailed the Glowworm. "They've broken my bulb." "Then put in another one," said the Centipede. "Be quiet a moment," said James. "Listen, I do believe they're not hitting us anymore." They've all stopped talking and listened. Yes, the noise had stopped. The hailstones were no longer smashing against the Peach. "We've left them behind. The seagulls must have pulled us away out of danger. Hooray! Let's go up and see," cautiously, with James going first. They all climbed back up the tunnel. James poked his head out and looked around. "It's all clear," he called. "I can't see them anywhere." And that is the end of that chapter. And here is the picture of the Cloudmen and the Peach. But I'm going to ask you to take out your writing journal if you're at a time that you can do that. And I would like you to draw me a picture of this crazy epic fight. So I'd like to see Cloudmen, and I'd like to see the Peach and the Centipede, and them throwing the hailstones. And if you could write me one sentence, it could even be the conversation between the Cloudmen and the Centipede or James or whatever like that. So one nice picture and one sentence or two sentences describing what you drew in your picture, okay? And then we will, in our Zoom meeting the next day, which would be tomorrow, I'm guessing, you can show those pictures to each other and we can see what you did. All right, I hope you're doing well. Be kind, be patient, and I will see you soon.